Let me know when you want to start. Yeah. All right, guys, welcome to the Alternative podcast where we and my friends discuss anything from politics, culture, mental health, self-improvement. And today, I can guarantee you it's going to be a very fiery debate. I'm going to be asking a few questions to my friends and seeing their opinions on certain debates, certain topics going on within the world. So if they could introduce themselves, that would be great.
Yeah, I'll go first if you want. I'm Cameron from the Alt-ernative podcast. This is The Great Resist. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Aaron, co-host of the Alternative podcast. And yeah, this is The Great Resist.
Oh, was I going to say that? So sorry.
Sorry. I think we almost forgot about me. Just kidding. I'm Alessia. I run It Simply Less.
All right, cool. So the first question I want to ask, and this is because I don't know if you guys have seen the recent interview between Tucker Carlson and Andrew Tate. And it's apparently one of the most viewed interviews of all time, apparently, which is insane. But it seems like that interview has caused him to be criticized by conservatives and right-wing influencers, when it's quite strange because he was one being championed by the right-wing, conservatives. Like, we were using him to push certain agendas, or others were using him to push certain agendas because he talked about gender ideology, masculinity, etc., etc. So my first question is, do you think he is an individual that the right should be using as a figure to champion certain things, or do you think he's somebody the right should just leave alone?
If I may ask, what exactly are the right kind of going against him now for?
It's mainly, so I think he got exposed for lying in the interview quite a few times about the certain court case going on. So it's kind of been like a rabbit hole. And it seems like, loads of conservatives have jumped on saying this is not somebody we should be championing. And he's coming back and saying it's the Matrix attacking me, which doesn't really make any sense. I think that's his excuse for everything. But so my question is, do you think he's somebody worth championing on the right side of politics?
So if I may start, just because I've made videos on him before, I've never liked him or hate him. I was always in the middle or on the fence. Like, I was trying to see his viewpoints, like look at more of what he's trying to talk about rather than what he has done. So I was at some point considering taking them down because I was like, I don't know, maybe this is kind of giving me a bad look, or maybe, what if he does get what if he is guilty of what he did? I'm not trying to support someone like that. However, he made points. The main points I was talking about on my channel were like just how society is now, and how people don't want to rise up, and this whole masculinity thing, and free speech, and that's the things that I kind of agreed with on. But the stuff he did about, I mean, if he did do all this stuff on the side, like this webcam stuff or anything having to do with that, like the way he talks about some things, I don't like that, and I don't think it's necessarily something that should be celebrated.
Yeah, I think from like a personal perspective, I don't think anybody should be sort of idolized or championed.
I agree.
Like with Andrew Tate, for example, there are some points he makes that are valid points, but then there's also some stuff that I don't agree with as well. But it's just about picking and choosing what he says and finding things that you can identify with and apply to your own life. But from a political perspective, I think to gain more popularity, for conservatives to gain more popularity, then using him as a figure, it makes sense because he is appealing to the younger audience. As you, at the moment, you're seeing, well, my generation especially, a lot of the young people are liberals, whereas I think Andrew Tate's found a bit of a gap in the market where he's appealing to the younger market whilst preaching conservative values in some way or another.
I was gonna say, do you think that if the right uses Tate as one of their figures, it's gonna make the Tate the Tate the the right look bad or kind of discredit them or make them seem in a way they're not? You know, because if we start having people represent one side or the other, it could just end up making them look even worse. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. I'll answer that, but I don't know what Cam wants to say about it because
Well, with Tate, I've always been a bit iffy about him. Like, he's a bit too out there for someone that I could possibly sort of respect or idolize or anything along them lines. He's a bit too much. Although I do agree with a lot of what he says. I won't say just some of what he says. A lot of what he says, I agree with. The way he goes about it probably isn't the best way. But then again, like, which way is ever the right way when someone just sort of hits the jackpot in terms of fame and just gets shredded with so many people just following him? I don't even know how I would handle something like that. So I can't really say how people should, if they should idolize him or not. It's sort of, if it fits, it fits. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But the thing is with Tate, and this is what I've seen this stuff with Tucker Carlson, right? And I think it was I think I saw somewhere it was the most viewed, and then I saw somewhere else it was the most viewed on Twitter. So I don't know what. I don't think it takes that much to be the most viewed podcast on Twitter because I know there's not that many on there. But I'm so like sketchy about Andrew Tate, even Tucker Carlson as well, because are they right wing or are they anti-establishment? Because the right wing's still establishment, right? So where do these guys fit in? Because if they're right wing, then that's something completely different to what Andrew Tate's preaching, because he's preaching all establishment is problematic. Not just, I know at the moment left wing looks crazy, but if it was on sort of the pendulum was on the other side, everyone would be like, fucking hell, the right
yeah.
wing's going batshit crazy.
So I think my response would probably answer Alyssa's question and clear up a few things. I think as somebody who hasn't been right wing for so long, because I've been brought up in a left wing household, it's only been in the last couple of years I've kind of looked at the world differently and developed my own stance on things. I think from my point of view, the Conservatives, Republican right wing have been losing so much, like in every realm for so long, that they just attach anybody to themselves to get a win, even if it's someone like Andrew Tate. And for somebody who saw the Tucker Carlson interview and then saw the lies that he told, and then I went down the rabbit hole, and it does look very damning, the stuff that he's been involved in. So I personally, as much as I think he does say good things, I think anybody can say those good things. They just don't have the charisma and aura of Andrew Tate. So I could sit here and say the same things, but I wouldn't go viral on TikTok like he has. So I don't think people should gravitate towards someone just because they say a few good points, you know?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
No. That's what I really wanted to say about that.
I was gonna say, to put it this way, I guess if I had a son, I probably wouldn't want him to be too attached to these red pill podcasts. I'm not trying to digress or Tate too much, because there is this side of them too that it is kind of hypocritical, or they say stuff because, again, maybe they're like, people when I made these videos were under the impression that I was like, oh, you know, I liked what he was doing, but I was just trying to look at some of his points because they send out a bigger message. But yes, I probably wouldn't want to even be with someone who is so attached to these ideas, because it's just, yeah, like you guys said, there is bad that has happened that kind of sketchy. I don't know.
So why do you think young boys especially have become so attached to somebody like Andrew Tate? Do you think it's because of the stuff he's saying and the way the culture is, or?
I think there's a couple of reasons. The first reason, I think what attracts people, especially young boys, is his lifestyle.
Okay, yeah.
So they look at a lifestyle and they think, well, I remember when you as a teenager, you thought, oh yeah, I want fast cars, I want all the money, I want the big house. But then looking past that, and once you've listened to him a few times, I think it's the message that he's speaking directly to them. He's speaking to men in particular, where a lot of stuff in society these days isn't being spoken about. So he's the only voice that they're listening to, a popular figure, that is talking about men's problems.
Yeah, and he's getting them at an age where they should be using their fathers or father figures as basically idols, right? And I'm not saying, well, I know a lot of people don't necessarily have fathers, but a lot of people that do have dads that are living at home with the dad, their dads have been sort of indoctrinated through work and through all that sort of stuff. So even when they're at home and they're like wanting to have discussions about things, real things, their dad's not necessarily going to give them that information because they're scared. They don't want their kid to get in trouble in school, blah, blah, blah. So they're going to fall into it. Whereas Tate's basically, he's speaking truth. A lot of what he says is complete and utter just truth. And I guess another thing is that age group, everyone's growing up, he's got this sort of arrogance about him, which can be quite attractive to sort of look up to. You think someone that doesn't really care, like F the system sort of thing. It's a bit like how like hip hop has such an influence on younger generations because it's all sort of rebellious and all that sort of stuff. Andrew Tate ticks all them boxes whilst also making people feel like they're getting more intelligent, getting more wise by listening to him. So people are looking at it like, well, I'm not listening to junk. It's good for me, but it's a bit well, it comes across as arrogant, doesn't he? He's got arrogance about him.
I think, and maybe Alyssa could respond to what I'm going to say here because obviously she's a girl. I don't know if she still identifies as one. Maybe we can clear that up afterwards. But I think that I don't think we should be hating on boys as to why they like him. You know, like I see on Twitter all the time people say, "Oh, what's the appeal to Andrew Tate? How can men like him?" And like they're calling Andrew Tate evil, so by extension calling the boys men evil for liking Andrew Tate, which I don't think you should say the boys are evil. You should be asking why they're gravitating towards him. And I think for so long society has squeezed men into this box of being feminine, and they've squeezed it so hard. Like Andrew Tate has popped out and he's the other side of the extreme. And because boys feel like they've got nowhere else to go to, like inside of them, boys know they're not meant to be feminine. Like we're just not, I don't care what people say, you're not meant to be as feminine as we are today. So society's pulling them in one direction, but in their bodies, they know they're supposed to be going in another. And when you see a figure like Andrew Tate preaching what you really like, you want somebody to say, I think that's one of the main reasons as to why he's become so popular, because he's the extreme of the extreme side of feminism today.
Yeah,
I
so
don't know.
I was gonna say, so like, what's exactly your question? Are you just wondering
So
what
do you
I
think feminism, extreme feminism, and the feminization of men has caused boys to gravitate towards Andrew Tate more than they would,
Yes,
say, 50 years ago?
I believe that. I feel like maybe 50 years ago, like they would maybe like laugh at him or be like, "Oh, this is so obvious what he's saying." But I'm actually thinking when you started saying how men know they're supposed to be a certain way, I'm like, is there like a women version of this? Like I know people talk about Pearl, but is there like if there was like a female version that was preaching femininity and all this stuff, how would that be? Like that's what I wonder if it was like a girl version. However, the thing with this Pearl girl, I don't know that there's controversy with her too because then she made some comment about women shouldn't vote. So then I guess you could you could say like that is also going in that direction. But it actually just made me think if there was like a women version of this, how would girls feel? Like would they gravitate towards her? But I do believe boys are gravitating towards him for I don't know who mentioned this about the lifestyle he has, but also because they're just I don't know, they're just tired of probably how things are going or they just want to be like strong and likable and I don't know because I even made this joke when I made the videos that it seems like his fan base is more extreme than him sometimes or they're more angry at like I see sometimes the way they talk about some things they just seem very angry at things and I think some people use what Tate is saying or Red Pill podcast as a way sometimes to take things out on girls or people they don't agree with like they get very angry easily so I do believe like I'm not necessarily mad at these people who look up to Tate but I think there are probably way better examples out there I don't know who but
I think
yeah
there are a lot of boys who hate women and girls because, and I think it's just the truth. They just can't seem to form relationships with girls and women, so they just hate on them. And because Andrew Tate says certain things about girls, I don't think he says it as much because he doesn't want to get that controversy, but he used to, and they gravitate towards him. And I think that's another reason. But you mentioned if there was someone preaching femininity, like how Andrew Tate supposedly promotes masculinity. what is femininity though? Because I don't think really anybody knows at this point.
What is a woman?
Because you
That's
have
the thing.
because you have like individuals like Nicki Minaj and Cardi B and others telling women femininity from what they express is sleeping around and, you know, catching STIs. So I don't really know. And then you
Yeah,
got other
actually,
women.
I came across all these posts of how, you know, that country song is being attacked and now, but yet they're promoting, what's her name? Red. This girl who is having these weird lyrics about colors of her body parts. So yeah, that's what they're promoting. And now it's like we're trying to go the whole opposite direction, but who's on the opposite? I don't want someone like Pearl to represent me. I don't want someone like, you know, it's like there isn't really a girl version of Tate in a sense. I don't know. Do you guys think there
I
is?
don't think so. I don't think there can be a version because I feel like it sounds sad, but I don't know how Aaron and Cam feel about it from a male point of view, but I feel like from my point of view, women have been brainwashed into thinking femininity is I can't say what femininity is, but I certainly know from what influencers and artists, celebrities promoting femininity, it's certainly not that in terms of this girl boss thing, you know, not getting married, not having kids, just chasing a career, sleeping around. That's not, to me, that's not femininity. I don't know, maybe that's controversial, but
That's
Oh,
like
yeah,
modern
go
day
ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
femininity. That's like modern day femininity, right? Where because I know from like what I've done around, you know, like yin yang and all that kind of stuff, and two opposite sides, male and female. I'm going to use them as example of two opposite sides. Women are more obviously more caring because of the fact that they give birth to a child and then that child then needs to stay with the mother for a long time. So it's stuff like empathy, caring.
whoa,
Um,
what do you mean? Men can give birth, mate. Come on.
but what's happening, I guess, with like the Nicki Minaj's and the Cardi B's? They're like they've drawn everything back and said, right, what do we want to keep that women should have, and then what do we want to take from the men's side and put it in here? Let's mix and match it all up and say this is what modern day femininity is, and that's why it's kind of outrageous what they're talking about because it doesn't work. Like you get the sense of it's unnatural what they're singing about, what they're rapping about. It's not natural. It's not nice to listen to because it's so uncomfortable. Because it's actually not like the true natural self of being for women or for men.
I was gonna say if men rapped about the same thing, like it would like what I'm trying to say is I completely agree with you guys. However, also if I heard a man singing about his parts and what he wants to do too, which they do, I also like for me, I don't like hearing that as well. Like the way, like in a sense where it's bad how they're promoting. I know this is like a whole separate topic. I'm not trying to change topics, but they promote, yeah, women doing all this crazy stuff. But at the same time, I don't think it should also be promoted for men in a sense, like to do all this. Like if men started rapping about what Nicki Minaj is, I would be kind of like, which they do sometimes. I would not listen to that either. So
I think like a message that's been portrayed to both women and men. You know, when I was growing up as a teenager, it was like, oh, you need to sleep with loads of girls. That's what it means to be a man. You need to be like a womanizer. But the message is similar that's being spread to girls as well. You need to sleep around. You need to own yourself, be a boss bitch, and all that kind of shit. But the message is very similar. It's like you both need to go and sleep around and attract loads of the other sex or the same sex these days, which I think is causing bigger issues in society where it's killing the family unit because people aren't settling down till later on in life. Once they've realised, once they hit the 30s, maybe mid 30s, then they settle down with someone, and then it's too late for them to have children because women have a body clock, don't they?
But doesn't Andrew Tate promote the same degeneracy then because he tells men to sleep around?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying though, with men.
Yeah, so those are
that is,
conservative values, really.
I was just about to say that, yeah. Like
I
how
think the right are using him as the right at the moment are using anti-establishment figures to promote themselves because they know the left have gone too far.
The left are winning and they will continue to win, I think, for the foreseeable future. But that's just me. Yeah.
Because I think this red pill movement has gone way, way too far now.
oh yeah,
It's
like
just a lot of bullshit.
yeah, like I know people that have told me the Red Pill podcast were like were sorry, what was I saying? Like, sorry, they were kind of confusing them and making them think a certain way. And then, yeah, the Red Pill podcast, I believe some of them are just, they show just the extreme side of things. Like most people, I feel like are not this way. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm being optimistic, but I feel like it is more of a chronically online or maybe type of city life. Like what I'm trying to say is I don't think everybody's like that. Like they'll show the extreme. It's like you have to either have had like no relationships, nobody, or sleeping around. Like they're always attacking the other side. Like what I'm trying to say, I feel like they're dividing people even more, and they're holding things true for some people and not for others. And I think it's just confusing people. And I agree with you. Red pill has gone too far for sure.
And I think that's why liberalism and red pill stuff is being promoted so much, because it's two extremes of society, whereas society sits somewhere in the middle. But all we see on the internet is both extremes, and then you might align more to one side than the other, which makes, if you've got a friend who aligns more to the other side, you're going to end up arguing with your friend because you've listened to it on a podcast and you're just repeating what the podcast has said. Your friend's doing the same with the liberal stuff.
Yeah, it made me wonder if it was like I was just gonna say, made me wonder if it was like controlled opposition in a sense.
Yeah, that could be very well. I think a lot of it as well is like, if you look at the big awakening that everyone's had, a lot of people have been like, "Fuck, we've been lied to so much by the news, by the government. We've been lied to. I've believed all that for how many years, and they're lying to me." Then you see a figure like Andrew Tate, who's like, "They're lying to you." You start looking up to him like a god, like he's gospel, like everything he says is then correct, because everyone's been tuned to believe an authority that was the media, that was the government. So everyone's trained and instilled in themselves like, I need to listen and believe these people. But then you don't believe one side, and then you see another guy who's talking about how wrong it all is. Then you're already trained and developed to sort of believe this everything they're going to say, because that's what you've been doing just from the other side. So it's so easy once you switch just to go down a completely different rabbit hole, which I was like going down anyway as soon as I awoke. I think most people have, but it takes one to sort of be like, whoa, this is fucking crazy on this side as well, and pull yourself out of it and have a bit more of a balanced view on what's actually going on.
So when you say that people take what Andrew Tate says as the gospel, right, do you think his following is more like a cult? Because from what I see, okay, and I'm not, it sounds like I hate the man. I don't really have an opinion on him any longer, but from what I see, it's like his fans will just ignore the evidence that's right in front of them. I'll say, oh, no, it's just a matrix. It's all made up. It's a lie. And I actually think they're developing the same behaviors as liberals when they deny their own ears and eyes and saying, this is a man because she says she's a man, or this is a woman because he says he's a woman. They're literally doing the same thing. So do you think it's more turned into a cult where he could maybe end up doing anything and his fans would defend him?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are lost in, they need someone to look into rather than being in tune with themselves. So I think people are so scared about being themselves that they automatically are looking for someone that they can rely on and trust. And like, fair enough if people need that sort of guidance. But I think what comes down to it a lot, and it's the same thing with the left and the right, is everyone's egos are like blown up to the max, where they're supporting these people, and then when these people come out wrong, it's actually hurting their egos. Whereas, let's say I've supported Andrew Tate on some stuff, for example. If it all comes out that he was doing the things that he's been charged of doing, I'll hold my hands up and say, yeah, I did support him up until I found out he was guilty, and I would no longer support the man. A lot of people won't have that same sort of mindset to say.
But I would still, even if he does get found guilty, I would still back some of the stuff he says, like work hard. Like, it's just a standard, and which a lot of young men don't do.
But I would argue, isn't there just plenty of other guys out there saying the same stuff?
Like, I feel like maybe if I had to choose to look up to one of the hosts on the Daily Wire versus Tate, probably them, because they seem like they have a family, they know what they're saying. Like, if I had to choose, but yeah, it kind of reminds me, or how you guys were saying, like my videos, for example, if he really was guilty of what he did, I wouldn't want to be associated with him. I would feel weird that my videos are up there. But then at the same time, I took his points and made videos on them. I didn't say I like him, I agree with everything. I just took specific points, and I think that's okay to do. But I kind of get what you guys are saying, because it's like we kind of it's almost like you don't want him to really be guilty of that stuff because you think it might kind of look bad on your part, but I don't know. I just looked at some of the points he said, not really him as a person.
And then what you say about the Daily Wire as well. There's always not a comparison, but they always group together the likes of like Jordan Peterson and Andrew Tate. But one thing that I've listened to Jordan Peterson quite a lot, and one thing that he's always said is he's always been an advocate of the family unit. He's always been it. And what he says about relationships is like men and women are different. Obviously, they're different, but you've got to respect the differences. You've got to understand what the differences are with your partner, and then you sort of channel your life around your differences. And the more you argue, you got to look at arguments as a good thing because you're actually strengthening your relationship and getting to know each other's differences a lot more. But then you get someone like Tate who preaches a lot of the same values that Jordan Peterson does, but around the family unit side of things, he's a bit more. Well, he's a bit more chaotic, right? He's a bit more
Extreme.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get that. I feel like it's harder for young boys to watch a Jordan Peterson podcast than an Andrew Tate podcast, because Jordan Peterson's more of a philosophical person. And I actually think he articulates himself well. I just struggle to watch him sometimes. But whereas Andrew Tate, he talks so fast and he gets angry and he says this, he says that. So it's easy for people to gravitate towards him. But you talk about the values that Jordan Peterson promotes. If I could ask everyone here, what is your one trait of masculinity that is good for the world? Like, what would you say is a good masculinity trait to have, if that makes sense, you know? Because I know we've got all these ones going around: be strong, get money, have the fast cars, big house, etc. But I don't really think those promote masculinity.
I think being responsible for yourself and responsible for your family.
I would say stoicism's quite masculine in my opinion, which is probably similar to what Aaron said there.
And I think Alyssa's point will be interesting, being as at
Yeah,
this
I'm
point
not
she's still a woman.
I mean, who knows anymore? But I would say, I had to choose one. Standing up for what you believe in and being strong and not letting what's happening in the world not being like influenced in a bad way, like having a good mind, like a strong type mind. And like kind of I agree with you guys, but I would say that like not getting easily influenced or crumbling under pressure from what's happening, and being willing to fight for what you believe in, your family, yourself, etc.
I think one of the biggest things men lack today, and what makes them extremely weak, is accountability. Like, they don't take any blame for their actions. They always blame somebody else. Oh, it's their fault. I did this, I did that. And they don't do any self-reflection, and they just go along with life just playing the victim, as do a lot of girls. But I think if men don't start taking accountability for their actions, it shows weakness as a man, in my opinion. I don't know how you guys feel about that one.
Yeah, I think it falls similar in line with responsibility. Like, you need to be responsible for your actions. If you're sat at home all day watching Netflix and eating hamburgers, then it's your fault you're fat and got a brain, right? And you're not got a partner or a family. Like, you need to be responsible. You need to go to the gym. You need to work hard. Everything out of that just stems greatness.
Okay, yeah, I agree. So to end this Tate discussion, do you think he's somebody going forward the Conservatives should use to push their message, or not? You don't have to give a deep answer, just either yes or no. Or do you think he promotes too many values that go against what Conservatives stand for?
I honestly think the whole world's in a fucking mess, so the Conservatives can do whatever they want, and I'm still not going to look up to anyone, to the standards of anyone that they put in front of me. I'm not going to look up to them.
No, I'll rate that answer.
Yeah, I'm honestly suspicious of everyone at this point, so maybe I might look at individual things, but no, I don't idolize people like that. No.
Yeah, I agree with these guys. Like, the right or the left, I'm not bothered whatever the fuck we do. It's just the same shit, just wrapped in a different wrapper, I feel like. Using Andrew Tate, I can see why the right would use him to increase their popularity. But personally, I wouldn't idolize him or treat him as any kind of god or...
No, yeah. There's only one God, and he doesn't have a bald head as far as I know.
I look up to Jesus. Yeah.
But talking about politics and left-wing right wing. We're seeing an extreme side of left-wing liberal ideology seeping in to the children's minds. So my next question is, why do you think, as we go further into the future, there are more and more kids, young adults, teenagers, attempting or wanting to transition or identifying as something else? Because maybe back in the day, there was an argument for gender dysphoria, and it was a real thing. But I personally do think it's a social contagion, and it is being pushed heavily through social media, through trends on TikTok, Instagram, even YouTube, maybe. And kids are being easily influenced to go about a certain way because they think it will give them meaning in life. It makes them better, and it's a great thing to do. So I just want to get your guys' thoughts on why we're seeing this trend go up and up and up. Because it's not decreasing, it's certainly increasing.
I remember I had a conversation with my mum about 5 years ago, 2018, I think it was, before I moved down to London. And we was talking about this, like having a bit of a debate about it. And I said, what I think it is the kids at school that don't fit in. When I was at school, they were either goths or emos. They went into that group. But now, I reckon they're changing gender or aligning to a new gender because that's the in thing for the kids that don't fit in.
So you think it's like the goth trend from back in the day?
Yeah, that's what to me. That's what it looks like. Obviously, I'm not at school, but from the outside looking in, like that's what it looks like.
I was gonna say that I just searched it up. From videos I watched and from my research, apparently, and I don't have much to say about this because again, not qualified. But apparently, there's a link. It says transgender and non-binary people are up to 6 times more likely to have autism. So they're finding a link between people with autism and this. And I'm not saying everybody who has autism, of course, is trans or a different identity, but there is a link there. So I'm not sure.
Well, it's the mental instability, I think, as well. But
like deeper going on, like another mental health issue.
Yeah, I think I don't know too much about the autism route. I know I've seen articles about autistic children being targeted with this sort of stuff, but I don't know too much on that, so I don't really want to comment on that. Maybe you guys know more than I do about that. But I certainly do feel like the entertainment industry and social media, etc., is having a massive influence. And I can only take it from my experience. No, I didn't transition, but when I was a kid and I grew up watching things like the biggest one I had was, Star Wars. Did anyone grow up watching that? No, just me. Brilliant. So my man, Anakin Skywalker, right? The message was he needed to save everyone. He needed to do this, he needed to do that, or he's going to lose the women in his life. He lost his mother, he lost his wife. So because I gravitated towards that film character, I adopted those worldviews and I thought I had to do this, I had to do that, or I'm going to lose everyone. I'm going to lose like the women in my life, my mother. And I had this like superhero complex where I wanted just to save the world or I'd lose everyone. So if that was affecting me throughout or I look at it now and I had that worldview because of those films, do you think it's the same for kids now? They're seeing these films and they're seeing maybe more femininity push for guys. And obviously, the more feminine you are, the more likely you are to change your genital area. I just think that is the main issue right now. And they're easily targeting kids through those social media films.
It's like I can see from when you're a kid, when I was a kid even, all the girls wanted to dress up as Disney princesses. All the boys wanted, me included, wanted to be a Power Ranger. Do you know when you go into these dress up things? But if you look at what's out there today, you do have that sense of like you want to be them. You want to be them in real life. You want to take that. So all the stuff that's out today, I can clearly see how that's going to have an impact on kids at a very, very early age. Just as when I'm talking like 4 years old, 3 years old.
Yeah, I feel like maybe these people feel like they're left out, like they feel different, so they try to gravitate. I think you guys mentioned it, towards a group, and this is the group they gravitate because maybe they see that this group is all about being yourself and expressing yourself and wearing this, doing that, and there's no limits, and they don't feel like they're. It's funny because it's like I feel like they don't want to be put in a box, but in a way they kind of are putting themselves in a box. Like, remember, I don't know when this was, like 10, 20 years ago, maybe everybody was all about no labels. I don't want to be labeled as anything, be yourself. And now it's like the opposite. Like everybody wants labels for everything. They want to put themselves in boxes, all that stuff.
Do
So
you know, do any of you know if this happens more with boys or girls?
This like gender, like identity
Yeah,
confusion.
gender identity, yeah.
I haven't
Um,
seen what the
I
stats are.
from what I'm seeing, I have to check, but from what I'm seeing, it seems like I would take a guess it's happening more with women, but
Hmm.
maybe
It may be happening more with women, but the guys who are attempting to be something they're not are getting more of the attention, I think. Sorry? What is that? Oh, my friend, who knows? Who knows what a woman? Adult human female, and that's all
Really
we have
lost
to
on
do.
this conversation until you can define what a woman is.
Yeah, I just think it's, biology, science, adult human female, chromosomes. We end the
it's
conversation there.
apparently 18% of people, 1.3 million adults identify as trans and 300,000 youth. That's a
How many
lot.
Such
people? 1.3 million.
According to the Williams Institute, 1.3 adults identify as transgender and 300,000
bloody
youth.
hell.
Is that in the US or?
In the US, in the US.
Yeah, but the thing is, can't I just sit here and say I identify as XYZ and that means I am then that, technically? So
I don't know where the line's drawn.
there is no line. The line that was drawn has been rubbed out. You no longer see it.
So it's endless.
I think it is endless. And once you open Pandora's box, that's it. Because the next agenda gets pushed and the next agenda gets pushed. You're gonna have to bleep this word out, but people think the next step is pedophilia being normalized.
Yeah. That's where it gets so bit of a shit.
Yeah, and I don't want to do too much editing for you, but why do you think the kids are being targeted?
Was it easy to indoctrinate, right?
But what is the goal with it? Why do they want kids going down this route?
To
It's a deep question.
maybe to make them lose themselves and follow, like, okay, if I'm not a woman anymore, I'm whatever you want me to be, like, to let them lose their sense of self. And because if they, also, like, there's a medical profit going on with this too, but it's to maybe lose themselves, because if you can attack something so like fundamental as like your gender and your biology, then what else can they do? It's crazy.
Yeah, when those kids grow up to be adults,
Lord help us all.
what'd you say?
Said Lord help us all.
Yeah, and they transitioned at an early age. They're going to grow up. A lot of them will grow up confused and regretting what they did. Then it puts them in a weak position where they can be easily manipulated.
I think coming off the back of an interview that we did on the Alt-ernative podcast, we interviewed two people who talked a lot about depopulation and how depopulation is real. And what I think it aligns to is, if you look at the amount of people today who aren't doing the sort of natural family kids life, they're still single late on in their lives, blah blah blah. What's going to happen here is you're going to get a whole generation who are going to be infertile because they've switched their things around, and you're going to get a lot of broken people who just don't know what they even want or what they even believe. But the only thing that they definitely won't be able to have or won't want is the natural boy and girl gets married, has a kid, and the cycle goes on. So I think the hope of depopulating comes into it quite a lot, which is kind of a scary thought. But
So do you think it's to dismantle the family unit?
yeah, for now and for future generations.
Okay.
100%.
What do you think would be the consequence of like, why do they want to dismantle the family unit?
Well, you can see with, and our next question is about climate change, but with the climate change narrative, it's all about depopulation. They want to depopulate the earth so we're not polluting as much.
It almost reminds me, I know you've probably all read 1984. It almost reminds me of when the kids turn on the parents and they snitch on them. And when they get, and like when the parents and the child get turned on again, like turned against each other, which I think is happening because you see teachers as well trying to raise the kids in their way because they also want this garbage to be enforced within society. I think that's probably one of the goals as well, to turn the parent and the child on each other, which again probably goes back to linking to dismantling the family unit. But do you agree with kids changing their gender? Do you think it's something kids should be allowed to do? I have a strong stance on this.
I was
Kids.
Definitely not kids.
No, not kids.
I was gonna say for all these people saying I don't want kids, kids are too much work, are the same people trying to get so involved with kids and put things in their head. It's like it's ironic, but no, I'm just like you guys. I'm completely against this, and like kids getting involved, like they can't make these decisions. Like they just can't. Like you have to wait a certain age to get tattoos, to get piercings. There's no logic behind this. So no, and I don't care if I'm not allowed to say this here. It just doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, it should be banned, and any surgeon that takes part in it should be jailed, in my opinion. That's just how I feel, because you are effectively ruining that kid's life forever. Like, especially if you perform surgery on them. I don't know how young they can do it, but I'm pretty sure, teenagers have had it done, which to me, that's still a kid. And once you've performed that surgery on them, there's no going back from that, is there? So
I don't even think it should be supported.
no.
Even if they don't go for the surgery, they still shouldn't be.
Oh yeah, for sure.
If a girl says she wants to be a boy, they should still be treated like a girl until
Well, it's
they're 18 or a certain age where they can make the decision for themselves.
well, it's interesting, because when girls back in the day thought they were more masculine, they were just called tomboys. Now they're more masculine, and their woke parents were like, "Oh, let's go to the doctors." Right.
Apparently there was this like hashtag trending save the tomboys, but according to the W path, they said hormones could be started at 14, 2 years earlier than the group's previous advice, and some surgeries done at age 15 or 17, a year or so earlier than previous guidance. And the story about Jazz Jennings, like she's like the most popular trans kid, that too, but even not only just with like these trans surgeries, even like just certain, let's say, medication or certain medical procedures, it's like when you're young, you don't really know the risks, and it's very scary. I have a younger sister, and like I get worried for her too, and I try to talk to her about this stuff because they do try to put it in kids' heads, but it's the surgery, it's the hormones, it's all this stuff. I feel so sorry for them. Like it breaks my heart even seeing some of these videos where parents are telling these like little kids like, what's your gender, what's this or that. It's like, thank you mom for raising me differently. It worries me for the future generations, like what's going to happen.
Yeah, so to move on to our next topic and talking about other political propaganda, and I know Aaron and Cam are going to have good points on this one because I only know a limited stuff about this. My view is more just conspiracy, as people would say. Climate change, we are now seeing a lot of it being pushed. I know I can see Aaron itching to get ready, especially with the wildfires we've just seen. Everybody thought it was climate change, especially in Greece with roads. It's now come out that it was potentially arson, which is interesting. But with climate change being pushed as this crisis that we were all in, apparently we're all going to die. They've been saying we're going to die for so long now. Yeah, I'm still here talking to 3 people. It's very interesting. What do you think is the consequence of these climate change restrictions on the average person? Do you think it will benefit us? Or again, do you think it's to take away our freedom and I shall sit back and allow everybody to talk?
Well, you're already seeing issues from this climate change agenda. Like I've been paying electricity, so I moved into this flat in 2021, and my gas and electricity bills have doubled since I've lived here. So that's 2 years, just under 2 years we've lived here, and they've doubled, and that's down to the fact, obviously, there's a war in Ukraine which is causing some energy problems.
Slava Ukraine.
But the UK have gone on a green energy initiative where they are just using solar panels and wind turbines. that isn't producing enough energy for the country. So hence why we're seeing energy prices double. Well, that's just an example of one thing that's happened, and it's causing people the cost of living crisis. Poorer people are not going to be able to heat their homes, and it's essentially going to affect them the most first. And you're seeing it as well with Sadiq Khan. He's introduced the ULEZ.
Twat. Yeah.
Yeah. But he introduced it in inner London, which is fine. It's inner London, like it's all rich people live there anyway. But then he expanded it in 2020, I think October 2020, to inside the A406, which is just a few more boroughs. Like you've got the City of London, and you've got the A406.
Is that like Uxbridge and stuff like that?
Uxbridge is like the next level out,
Okay.
which is being expanded in next month.
Well, I think that's why they lost the election somewhere.
Yeah, they lost the by-elections in Uxbridge. So again, that's going to charge, I think it's £25 a day for people who drive diesels older than 2016. So again, the poor people are being hit because poor people aren't going to have newer cars, and there'll be a lot of tradesmen driving around in diesel vans that are older than 2016.
Okay.
So they're going to have to pay 25 quid a day to go to work.
So you think this is looming into a tyrannical stage?
Yeah, for sure. And it's affecting the poor people first, which Sadiq Khan's supposed to be a Labour MP, or Labour Mayor of London.
They're all the same, mate.
Labour was a party set up for the working people, but they're not protecting the working people. They're going with this green initiative, which is affecting the working people first.
Okay. I don't know what it's like in Canada, Alyssa, with sustainable energy being spoken about. I know you probably can't use maple syrup to power everything, so I don't know what you're doing over there about it, or what's the climate change situation?
Honestly, I don't see it talked about that much. I mean, obviously they want to, the whole plastics thing, whatnot. They give tips like, to save on your energy bill and for the climate about, like in the summer lowering your AC. But I'm not really hearing too much about this that much. I mean, I don't know if this, okay, but maybe because I'm not like paying too much attention to it, but they put an emphasis a lot on, how they always want people in the cities, they're building up rather than like they're just building a lot of apartments, and it just makes me think that they want us to be more within walking distance of everything. And
15-minute cities. Do you know about it?
I've heard about it.
They trialed it, or did they trial it in Oxford? Or the plans to do it in Oxford? So they're going to set cameras up of the different districts, and you can't leave that district in your car. Otherwise, or you can leave it like a certain amount of times until you start getting a fine through the door. It's to try and reduce the amount of transport through private vehicles.
We are the carbon they want to reduce. That's how I feel. Anyway. But do you think the World Economic Forum have a say in this, Aaron? Do you think Bill Gates has a say in this?
Bill Gates is a prick.
Don't say his name like that.
Yeah, I think all the elites are intertwined with this, with the WEF. If you want to read more about 15-minute cities, go on, have a look at C4. Is it C4? 1 second. I've got it bookmarked.
He reads this every day.
Yeah, our cities, C40 cities. And you have a look on that map, and you'll see how many cities are involved in this.
Okay. Is that why he's buying all the farmland and stuff like that as well too? So he can, because they want to produce lab-grown meat, don't they?
Yeah, well, yeah, he's a massive investor in lab-grown meat.
Yeah. So do you think?
But they want us to eat bugs.
You know what's crazy about that as well? Channel 4 are heavily pushing like the lab-grown stuff. They're doing a documentary now on like how positive it is and how tasty it is. So they're already getting ready.
Disgusting.
You're going to get another wave of people coming up now. You're going to have bug burger joints on every corner soon.
Do you know who I feel sorry for the most in all of this? the parents who make their kids have climate change anxiety. Have you heard about that? Oh, mate, if you're having sleepless nights about climate change, they need, talking about Andrew Tate earlier, they need to put that clip in where he slaps and says, do some push-ups. I don't know if you've seen that clip. And put it in the podcast, search it up afterwards and edit it in. I think that would be a good thing.
The vegans are just happy right now.
Yes.
Like, oh,
Some of these parents are scaring their kids.
oh, wait, no.
Yeah, and most of them, like the ones we see at these Just Stop Oil protests, which by the way, oh my, anyway, are like older people. I understand you got a few years to live, etc., but just don't affect everybody else's life, you know?
Yeah. They just want to go out as people that are doing something good. They might have done some shit things in their life, so they think now's time to do something good.
My anxiety, or I'm more concerned about other things rather than the climate. And maybe because I'm fortunate to where I am, how I live in Canada, we don't really get all these huge climate things, like issues, like for example, that heat wave going on in for example, Italy, like where my family is. We don't really get these like these huge disasters, like maybe snowstorms or, you know, the wildfire situation, but we don't really, we're lucky that when it comes to extreme weather, we're not as affected as like a lot of people. So that's why maybe it hasn't really been on my, yeah, I know air pollution or just air, like bad air, but it hasn't really been on my mind like it is for other people because of, I guess, where I live in the world.
Talking about air pollution as well. Sorry. I was listening to a guy on YouTube. He's called the Brown Car Guy. He's an Indian guy. That's why it's called Brown Car Guy. But he bought this air pollution device, and it reads the air quality. So he was trying to prove Sadiq Khan by going to these different areas in London and showing that the air quality is fine, and there's no real justification for these policies that it's bringing in. So he went to like the actual city of London. Air quality was, I think it was just fair. It was okay. It's a city, so you don't expect it to be perfect. And then he went on the London Underground, and he was testing the air quality there. And they were placed on the London Underground where it was going to like dangerous levels. He was stood outside of a station, and it was at dangerous levels. So he was saying that the problem is the London Underground, not diesel cars.
Well, yeah, I don't know how much air actually gets underneath or underground, though, you know?
I remember when I first moved down to London, I used to commute to work, and I'd come back, I'd blow my nose, and it'd be like black snot coming out. It's fucking horrible.
That's a bit nasty, mate.
Yeah.
The crazy thing is about all of this climate change stuff, right? If you look at the weather maps they put on the news, they put England as orange. She going to sleep?
No, just leaning. Yeah,
I'm
this is so-
hosting this, and you're falling it. Never mind. Carrying on. On the weather map, they put England, UK as orange, but I tell you, it's as grey as my curtains. Aaron's top. I don't get it. It's cold. I walked out and I was like, I was expecting some heat, you know, get a stroke or something, but I'm freezing.
Yeah, it's like, I think it's like 16 degrees or something right now.
Yeah.
That's not warm for summer.
I mean, it must be really hot in Alyssa's room, you know, making her feel tired and stuff. So maybe open a window or something, yeah.
But I have seen some examples how the media have changed the weather maps. And before they used to use green and sun, and then the temperature next to the sun. Now they use like reds and oranges and make it look really dramatic.
Like the whole world's on fire.
Yeah.
What do you think the... Oh, now you want to talk.
It's my time. No, just kidding. Continue.
No, I had nothing to say.
No, I was saying because the air quality, like when the fires were coming every day, we would check it. It would say unhealthy, and some people, like I said, would feel like see the smoke out. But that was just because of the wildfires. Like usually our air pollution will, because of where I am, it's okay. But that's, I guess, more the concern. But in terms of the climate, yeah, I don't think about it as much as other people do, I guess. But
what keeps you
maybe
awake at
just
night
because
then
my
if not climate
priorities are
change? Because I'm shitting myself
not bad
over
to
it.
say. There's somewhere else.
You know, I'm scared of climate change right now. So what keeps you awake at night? What political propaganda is pushed in Canada?
Well, basically I mean, just all this stuff, like just all this wokeness, but it's not that that's what's necessarily like keeping me up at night. It's just when it comes to the climate stuff, I don't know how to feel. Like you guys have more knowledge on this stuff. I don't know what to
trust me.
believe.
I think with climate change, Whether it's a hoax or not, I'm more leaning to the side that it's a hoax. And what it literally comes down to is more control. Everything that you're going to see, all this propaganda is just more control. So when you're looking at climate change, it's what can we do to save the climate? What can we do? And it's go electric with your cars, so then they can control the cars because they're electrics, which will be powered by software, which Elon Musk will probably be in charge of. And it's then with the central bank digital currency, I'm sure you've all heard of coming in. It's then, well, what are you spending your money on? What are you spending on? Is it going to help climate change? Is it going to affect climate change? So then it's just ultimate control over what we're spending on. And this is just the beginning of it. What you'll see, what when it begins, sorry, what you'll see is just the beginning of it is don't buy that much meat, don't drive your car that much, don't put that much fuel in your car, don't charge your car too much with electric, don't use that much gas. But then we're all going to get accustomed to this new way of living where we've got to worry about the climate, and in return, eat your bugs, get your score up, get your social credit score up. And then what they'll end up doing is just chucking a little bit more in every so often once the foundation's been built, chucking a little bit more in, a little bit more in, a little bit more in, to the point where if we're leaving the house for anything other than then go and work our jobs, then there's going to be a problem. And it's going to be the same thing. They're already talking about more lockdowns coming. So once we've
Climate change lockdowns.
when we're on these digital currencies and they see that, oh, we've been to Tesco at 11 a.m. and then we've been to Asda, I don't know, at 4 p.m. They're going to be like, well, why are you going out twice? You can only go out once to get your shopping. Or even by then, Amazon's going to be delivering all of our food to us, so we won't even need to leave the house for that. So it's just going to be like, why
So
are you
you're
even
telling
leaving
me I've got to stay in all day, every day because of the sun? Okay, well, I look forward to it. I might move to Canada. Don't get too excited, Alyssa. But moving on to the last and final topic, and I feel like Alyssa can get more involved in this one because she's got the painting pictures on the wall. In my opinion, God is being heavily pushed out of society, and it's very purposely done. I think you can say everything we've discussed could link to spiritual warfare, maybe. So I want to get your guys' opinion. Why do you think, especially in Western worlds, faith, Christianity is being pushed out and woke garbage is being inserted instead?
Well, are we just talking about Christianity or even other religions? Because there is a push, or like what we've been seeing now is we're seeing a lot of like Muslims protesting against all this stuff, like in Canada and other countries too. I think there's a lot of them protesting because we're like Christians are actually probably more similar to them than they think. But I saw this comment somewhere. I should have saved it because it was good. It was saying that what this woke stuff is promoting, or what their mentality is, it's similar to the beliefs of Satanism. Like it's all about me. It's all just, I wish I still had the comment, but I believe because when you follow God and when you follow religion, it's all about good values and good morals and rejecting what's happening and family unit, all this stuff. So that's why now it's like they're trying to push us further and further away from it.
Okay. Cam, what are your thoughts? I know you and Aaron are on your spiritual journeys right now.
Yeah, when in your question you put Hollywood music, social media, they're just purely propaganda tools, right? So whatever the powers that be want you to believe, that will all be enforced through the relevant channels of TV, movies, social media, and then music. I think it's hard. It's a difficult one because they don't want people to be believing in anything apart from the narratives that they push. And when you believe in God and believe in spirituality and being in tune with yourself and figuring yourself out and being good to yourself and good to other people, what their agendas are and what they're setting up, all this crazy stuff like climate change and transitioning, it's not good for people. It's not nice. So taking God out of the equation, it seems like God's kind of sitting in the way between them and us, if you know what I mean. Whereas it's like a lot of people would look at the transition and think, oh, that's not really godly, that's not really something I don't think God would want. The same thing that you saw with sort of like the gay movement when that happened. And yeah, I think I just think it's basically they just need all the propaganda needs to take God out of the situation, so then they cut out the middleman, so to speak. So they've got no barrier to entry to controls. Whereas when God was there, for a lot of people, they would sort of listen to what they're saying, then refer to themselves and God and that connection that they have, and then make the decision. But get rid of God, and you don't need to do that anymore. They're now the authority. They are putting themselves there as the god, so to speak.
In the past, when people were going through tough times, they would go to God and ask God for the answers to overcome these tough times. Whereas now they want you to go to the government to ask for that. Help me overcome these bad times to the government and not to God.
Because I was gonna say, I don't know any mainstream like people or ideas that I guess promote God and godly values, because people, let's say, kind of like back to the first conversation, like Tate or Red Pill, they honestly what they say is kind of against like God or like this the Bible or all this stuff, technically what they say. So it's like I don't know, I don't see, and like these things being promoted in mainstream, actually it's the opposite, because we see who becomes super famous, all these songs on the radio or on the trending, they're all like almost like satanic type songs, or like they're, you know, like the Sam Smith, all this stuff happening. So, or Lil Nas. So it's like almost going the opposite, which makes you think, you know, it might get to a point where they could try to ban, you know, these holy books. And I don't think it can, because the outrage would be astronomical, but I don't know, it
They
could.
can try. Imagine coming around my house trying to steal my Bible. God would strike you down. But I personally think, yeah, God is being pushed out of society, and you're seeing liberals and leftists, you see it more and more. They're aligning themselves with Satanism. Like there was literally somebody, I don't know if you saw this with the whole Target situation back in a few weeks ago. A designer they used literally had badges that people could buy that said Satan loves pronouns or accepts pronouns or whatever. And I saw another Pride march, somebody says Satan loves us. And I think Satan promotes the degeneracy that they like to indulge in, you know, worship of oneself and sleeping around, etc., losing their self and ending up down an emptyless road. Whereas people that have faith, whilst they get mocked like me every single day, pretty much, I think are more stable, in my opinion. You know, I feel stronger and mentally stronger when I have put my faith in God. I don't know how Aaron's journey into that has gone, because I know last time we spoke you weren't too sure.
Well, I was never too sure on organized religion as such, but we've had a few guys on the podcast talking about spirituality, and at the moment I'm reading a book called The Conversation with God, and it doesn't talk about God in a organized religion sense, more as in God is sort of the universe.
Okay. So it's more like, yeah, I get that, and I do see that. I used to be quite into the whole spiritual thing, you know, like, but I just feel like with spirituality, I think there's a line that you can't cross, because it ends up with worshipping yourself again. Because like you kind of put yourself above everybody else in the terms of spirituality. Like I'm above everybody on like a soul sense or whatever. That's what I experience. I don't know if you see
I
that.
wouldn't put myself above God or the
No,
universe.
no.
Like
No,
whatever path the universe puts me on is my path, and I need to figure out what. I look at it as like whatever happens to me is a message from God. If anything bad happens to me, or if anything good happens to me, it's a message from God I need to overcome or find out the answer to why has God sent this message and change something in my life to put me back on the path that God's trying to guide me on.
yeah, exactly. Because I was gonna say, I was just doing some research here, and basically many Christians believe that the devil was once a beautiful angel and he basically rebelled against God. So it says here that these people, these Satanists, they're not devil worshippers. To them, Satan is a symbol of pride, liberty, and individualism, and it serves as an external metaphorical projection of our highest person and potential. So it's almost like it's all about me. So that's why they're saying that this idea of Satanism is closely related to all this like woke stuff happening, because it's kind of selfish, like it's all about me and pride and this and that,
I don't know if you guys have seen this, and I highly recommend, if you haven't, go and watch it. It's called A Conversation with Lucifer or something on YouTube. It is on, like, it's like 15 minutes long, but like, so a guy dresses up as the thing, right? And he like says, why is this being pushed? I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And the reasons as to why certain things are being pushed is actually quite crazy when you think in terms of it, of like Satanism and stuff like that. Do you think the people who are pushing Satanism also worship the devil?
According to this, not necessarily, but it makes you
So
think.
do you think the people in Hollywood,
Oh, the people in Hollywood.
politicians, we're getting down to the Hillary Clinton stuff now,
I mean, if we look at Sam Smith and Lil Nas, it literally looks like it. I mean, we've seen Montero, we've seen things like that, and yeah, they're gonna say, "Oh, it's just a metaphor," but I mean, I wouldn't play around like that. Like what?
I think if it's sort of like like a top-down hierarchy where people at the top know, let's just say they know the devil, they've been close to the devil, and then they own all of these media outlets, and the devil wants to spread his message or her message or whatever that thing may be, that message across, then what's the best way to do it? The best way is to get the media outlets, the Hollywood, music, all the biggest things that are there, and say, well, this is how you need to portray the message. So then they have control of everyone that could blow up, possibly get big in Hollywood and reap the rewards of Hollywood. And I guess that's where the term "it's time to sell your soul," because if you want the rewards, if you want the wealth, if you want the big house and the fast cars, to sign this piece of paper, promote what we want you to promote, give out the subliminal messages that we want you to give out, and we'll make sure that your stuff is, for example, Taylor Swift, for example. I recently found out that I think there's 3 generations of, was it bank owners? Her father, her father's father, and her father's father. Or is it Merrill? I think it's Marilyn Lynch. They owned that bank. So how does one go from having a bank, and the evils that come from the banking system, even from 3 generations ago? That's where it kind of all started, if not a bit further.
Have any of you? Sorry, are you going to carry on? Sorry.
No, I'm just saying, like, what that's generational. You've got 3 generations of bank evilness, and then that, I guess you've got a daughter who looks at and thought, "Oh, you'll be a prized possession to stick out there." Like, you listen to her music, it's not actually that good.
No,
everyone loves her. Like, her tickets sell for ridiculous.
Shake it up.
Her music, she's not actually talented.
I thought, oh yeah, have you seen her recent performances live? I'm telling you, something ain't right there. She's been watching The Conjuring weekly or something, because that looks witchcraft to me. It's like Travis Scott. I don't know if you saw his performance in Egypt got banned.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which is crazy, because they think he's a devil worshiper.
Have you seen The Weeknd? How?
Oh yeah, as well, that guy.
That was weird, that one. But the worst one was Taylor Swift by far.
I definitely think, and this might be conspiracy, but I definitely think these artists and these music labels do get involved in some cult like stuff. I really do think, because like I've seen so many interviews. Like I don't know if it's still on the internet, they might have wiped it, but I remember seeing when I was younger Katy Perry saying, "I sold my soul to the devil," or whatever.
Oh, there's a song too, it's like something like that. I don't know who was a rapper said something like that. He did that for designer, and even Beyonce, they said like a part of her music video, something flashed on the screen. And
yeah, I saw that. It was like for about 30 seconds it was showing like that hypnotized thing where it spins around.
Yeah.
And then as soon as that finished and everyone was sort of hypnotized or whatever, it started flashing loads of words up like media controls your mind, the media's right, and all this. So why is that at a Beyonce concert?
Did that actually happen?
Yeah. And then people were saying, like, people have been talking about it, saying it was the weirdest feeling that I had in my body during that
Well,
moment.
it's like there's a Rihanna music video. I think it's like S&M or something,
Oh,
and it literally says in the background the princess of the Illuminati. I found that crazy. Now I don't know if she was trolling with that, but you can literally
No,
search it up, and
she's
there's like
close
loads
to
of
Jay-Z as well, isn't she? And Jay-Z's meant to be high up.
Rockefeller.
oh my gosh. These celebrities, I just stay away from all this. Like, I don't, scary.
I saw a video of a comedian, and she was like cursing Jesus, like saying things about Jesus in like a negative way, and then a couple of like seconds later, she just passed out on the stage.
Well, who knows? I mean, I've gone down the rabbit hole of the whole like devil worshipping stuff. Like I've seen stuff on Twitter, etc. It's not nice. It's actually quite scary. It like does mess with your head a bit because you don't know if it's true or not, and then you see these like leaked emails. Miss Clinton. I would never kill myself, by the way. But like when you look at her emails and stuff like that, and the stuff that's said in that, it's quite crazy. You know, I don't know if any of you have seen that at all. Oh, you've never seen the Clinton leaked emails. What you need to check, you know who Patrick B. David is? Have you seen his recent interview with Anthony Weiner? Okay, so I think it's the guy that had his laptop seized or something. I can't remember what it is, but he starts off by he was really close to Hillary Clinton, and he starts off saying like, our fans asked us what we wanted to ask you, and they were like, we're not going to ask you about Frazzle Drip because there's not enough information on there. We're not going to ask you about Pizzagate because there's not enough information on there. So like he's telling his audience those things to go and research, which I find quite crazy. But he started reacting really badly to those things. And he was very close to Hillary Clinton. And like if you go down that rabbit hole, which I don't suggest you do.
What's his name?
Anthony Weiner,
Anthony Weiner.
something like that. It went
Check that out
viral.
tomorrow.
I've heard him come up in a lot of conversations, Anthony.
Yeah. So it went viral because of how emotional he got, and they were basically saying, how does Hillary Clinton have so many friends or associates close to her that have died? I know, it's crazy. I'm surprised YouTube allowed that to stay on, I'm going to be honest with you. But being as Alyssa is a Christian, you're right, or a Catholic?
I was raised Catholic because of my
Okay.
background.
Do you think people are more scared of the devil than God in today's world? Do they fear the devil more, or do they fear God more?
Who, like Christians or atheists or who?
Christians and Catholics.
Oh, well, we're taught like, resist, he will flee, God has more power. But I think that this is a hard one. Dang. I don't know, because I think what it is too is like younger people, like maybe my age, get put into their heads that if you do one thing wrong, like you will be punished by God, or that like, oh, it's so strict, like you can't do this, you can't do that, like all this stuff, like that's what they get put in their heads, and that's what I believed for like the longest time as well. But it's not like that, and I believe that I don't know. I think that, I mean, if you really believe in God, that like the devil can't hurt you and you're protected. And I know it might not seem like it, because some people might argue, well, if God's real, why do all these bad things happen? Why are all these bad people in charge? But they don't see kind of the other side. Like we are protected from things, and kind of like that example that lady passed out. Well, in Brazil, they were mocking Jesus in the story, and then some flood came like that day, or something happened like that. But I didn't fact check it, I don't know, but I heard about that. But I genuinely believe it just takes a lot of faith, and I think, yeah, it's in the Bible too that people will be persecuted for having these beliefs. But I think it is all about having faith, and despite what's being told, and it just makes you think, like, if they try to push this side, then the other side must be true
Must be
too.
real. Yeah, I actually think they're scared, to be honest. I think these people are so scared of people believing in God, so they constantly push the other side. And I do think a lot of people today are more scared of the devil than God, which is, I find, kind of strange, because the God could end everything like that, But I want to know about Aaron and his faith. Have you decided on what you're going to do?
Yeah, well, I don't think I'll ever subscribe to a organized religion. One thing, I don't mean to offend anyone who, like, especially you and Alex, because I know you're Christian. I've looked into it, but one thing that I think I mentioned it last time as well, that I'm skeptical of is a man has written that book and it's been passed down through the Romans, and the Romans used it for control. And I don't know how much of that text has actually been manipulated by man. That's what sort of throws me off Christianity.
You know, that's why some people actually look at Islam, because they say that it hasn't been changed at all. But I know that's what people say a lot. Maybe it was changed, and sometimes they mention the Pope and the priest, but that you don't have to like worry about that. But no, I get you.
Well, it doesn't mean that I don't believe in God. It just means I'm not subscribing to a organized religion.
But it also means that you don't not believe in Christianity as well, right?
Yeah, that also means I don't not believe in Christianity because of that. I just don't know how much of the book is legitimate and how much has been manipulated.
So what do you think happens when we die?
I think I was actually talking to my partner about this the other day. Because she's Catholic. I believe you go to heaven if you're good, go to hell if you're bad. And I think that life is I believe it's a test. And if you look at life properly and you follow the message that God's sending and you act on those lessons to make yourself a better person, then you will go to the next realm. But if you fail the test, then you're back down on earth and you have to do it again.
Like reincarnation? Or
yeah, like reincarnation. You're back down. It's been like all your lessons have been wiped, and you're back doing a test again.
So do you think it's all these things we're seeing pushed onto us today are putting us at a lower vibrational state, which is stopping us from going into that next realm when we die?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is evil, like demons trying to pull us down and stop us from going to that next realm.
Do you think aliens are demons? There is a conversation about that now.
Hey, what it could be is that you, in your last life, you might have failed so bad that they've put you on this realm, and they've been like, right, he needs something super easy to learn lessons from. Put you in this realm, put all the woke shit out there, and be like, if you can't learn from this, then there's no hope from him. That's a bit of a crazy theory.
I would like to believe heaven exists. I would like to think all these bad people who are doing bad things in the world right now, whether it's elite level, street level, are going to face some sort of justice, because I hate the thought of these people doing bad things to people, women, children, and not facing any consequences at all.
That's what someone on our podcast was saying the other day when we asked them about God. They were saying, you're going to see all these bad people, and if they end up in the same place as you do, or they end up getting off with what they've been doing, are you going to find it fair? Is it going to feel like justice has been served?
Yeah, that would be nice to think. There's one more question I do actually want to ask. Has anyone seen The Sound of Freedom?
I was asking if there's any way I can download it. You don't have to pay. I want to watch it, but it's also ironic that it's like seems like they're trying to push that down, but then promote other things. You see, it's just it's like God's children are not for sale.
But they are not for sale. I've seen bits of it, and it does look very emotional. And I think the guy that plays the main character, I can't remember his first name. It's like Jim Caviezel. Yeah, he was amazing in that. But I found it very interesting. Yeah, it's very interesting that the media try and push that down. When it's all about this human trafficking, child trafficking thing, which, do you think
I'm gonna watch it? I just want to be mentally ready to watch it, because it's one of them films which isn't going to be the best, nicest.
Yeah, they say apparently like the good news is like it's not graphic, but it is like emotional. Like meaning they said like if you have some sort of like trauma, it won't like it's not like a graphic thing. However, of course, it's so heartfelt. Like people were coming out of the theaters like crying, sad, and it's just, yeah, you have to be ready to watch something like that. And it feels, yeah, like your hands are tied sometimes. You just want to do more to help. And it's like from seeing all that's happening, it's like, how do some people still not believe this or believe what's really going on? Like with all these, I mean, if you start putting all the clues together, it seems like it's sort of almost obvious. I mean, it's tough, but I think, you know, when I look at the story of Jesus, I always just think of that all the time, just seeing how there was this person that was like perfect, that got persecuted and got called names, and he was put down and they didn't believe him and all this stuff. It just makes me think of what's happening now, in a sense, where you have the good people, and the people that try to do good are the ones being persecuted, slandered, all this stuff. And it just feels like that's what's going to happen, but we're not alone. Like that's not, in a sense, like it's almost a test, and it's like not to worry, not to be afraid, because God has our backs, and there's always a way. Like whenever there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah. I actually really do want to see the whole film, because it's something I've done that I've seen so much of, and it's so scary and so horrific. And the fact that it does go on in the world really does make me angry, that kids are literally sold to people.
One of the biggest industries in the world. Yeah.
There we go. Well,
Is
that's
it only on in cinemas in America?
Some cinemas apparently. Some cinemas are doing like dodgy things in the cinema. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
Yeah, I
like
heard
random things are happening in the cinema because they don't really want people seeing it.
Oh, really?
And stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
like the movie stopping, the AC is turning off, but it's not just one or two theaters. Like it's happening often in the main ones. But here, even I'm just checking, they are showing it in some theaters here. They're not
in
that
Canada.
close.
Damn.
Apparently. Yeah, they are showing
in the
it
UK. Why would Canada?
It won't be put in the UK, I don't think.
US and Canada, and plans to be available internationally soon.
Fucking Barbie instead.
To be fair,
Ridiculous.
things usually release in America and Canada first, and then come to the rest of the world after.
It's made 100 million, so I hope it does come here now.
I'll wait and see if it comes in cinema or goes to
Maybe we should all watch it together.
Movie review.
And I will be there for Aaron and Cam when they cry. But yeah, that's all the questions I had today. Is there anything else anybody wants to add?
I don't think so. It's been great. You've done a great job hosting, to be fair. You've been like, what's the word? I feel like well.
Have I actually? Well, thank you very much. You know, I expect a good pay at the end of this. But yeah, no, guys, it's been amazing. And some of the questions.
Experience.
Sorry?
We'll pay you in experience.
That doesn't seem fair. Who says I'm not experienced already? But yeah, no, it's been great, guys, and thank you for answering my questions. And I shall take all the feedback you gave me. Probably not pay any attention to it because, no, I'm joking. I will. Thank you. Thank you so much, guys, for watching.
Thanks everyone for watching.
Cheers, guys.